Good morning, distinguished guests and esteemed participants. On behalf of CSIR IITR, I welcome you all to the lecture of IITR Diamond-Jubilee Elocution Address Series. To begin the program, I request Dr. Bhaskar Narayan, Director CSIR IITR, to usher our chief guest, Mr. Anil Swarup, Chairman Nexus of Good Foundation, Noida, Uttar Pradesh, to the dais. Welcome, sir. I now request Director Sir to please welcome our guest with a book and a flower. Thank you, sir. I now invite Dr. K.C. Kulbe, Chief Scientist, CSIR IITR, to welcome our orator, Mr. Anil Swarup.
Namaskar. Good morning. Most respected Shri Anil Swarup ji, our own director, Dr. Bhaskar Narayan, the students from Isabella Thorburn College, Lucknow, my colleagues, friends, students. On behalf of CSIR IITR, I welcome you all to this 12th lecture under Idea series. You know very well that CSIR IITR is celebrating its Diamond Jubilee year, and under this, we are organizing Idea lecture series. And we are fortunate to have with us today Sri Anil Swarup ji. Sir, thank you very much for sparing your valuable time and accepting our invitation to deliver this lecture. Shri Anil Swarup ji is an Indian author of various books and a retired IAS officer of Uttar Pradesh, 1981 batch. In his service of 38 years, he served at various capacities. Born in Allahabad, now Prayagraj, in Uttar Pradesh, he earned his master's degree in political science from Allahabad University in 1978, where he was awarded the Chancellor's Gold Medal for being the best all-round student for that year. During his training at Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, Dehradun, he was awarded Director's Gold Medal for the best officers training. As a civil servant, he held various assignments both in the state of Uttar Pradesh and central government. He served as Secretary of Government of India in the Ministry of Coal, where he handled the aftermath of the coal scam. Thereafter, he also served as a Secretary, School Education and Literacy, where he attempted to foster the public-private partnership for improvement in quality of school education. As a strategic thinker and an innovative leader, he won several awards and nominations. The prominent one are nominated as one of the policy change agent by the Economic Times during the year 2010 to 2012, 2015 and 2016. He was selected as one of the 35 action heroes in India Today's 35th annual edition. He is the founder chairman of Nexus of Good, an initiative towards recognizing positive action and providing inspiration to the society at large to replicate them. He is also the author of various books, including Not Just a Civil Servant and now, as the topic itself speaks, You Can Make It Happen. And with these words, I welcome you all again to this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. To take the proceedings forward, I am delighted to welcome our orator, Mr. Anil Swarup, to deliver the IITR Diamond-Jubilee Elocution address on You Can Make It Happen.
My young friends and not so young friends. You can decide where you belong. What a pleasure it is to be here in Lucknow. I spent almost half my life in Lucknow. I am what I am today because of what I got to learn in Lucknow. I'm still learning. And people asked me, you've grown old, you've retired me for 7 years. Why do you keep traveling? Why can't you sit at home and watch Netflix? Which in any case I do. But I love traveling because it is during these journeys that I get to learn more. And in the half an hour that I spent with the director here, I think I am going back inspired, learned a lot. The topic that I have to speak on today is You Can Make It Happen. And my task becomes easier when I see people like him making it happen. So he's an epitome of what I'm going to talk about today. Thank you very much for inviting me here. मुख्तसर सी जिंदगी के अजब से अफसाने हैं, हाँ तीर भी चलाने हैं, परिंदे भी बचाने। अब लखनऊ में है तो थोड़ा बहुत उर्दू तो चलेगी। And I would think that I won't have to translate this uplift because translation you use the essence of it. To convey what I have to say, life is indeed tough. It is difficult. But then you got to move on. And how do you move on? There is a problem here. We are fortunately a democracy, but there's no dearth of ideas. You walk down the street and ask anybody for solution to any problem, whether how should India respond to what the Trump is doing or not doing, people have solutions to that. There's no dearth of ideas. Almost everyone has an idea. and they have no problem with having ideas because they don't have to implement them. But for any idea to fructify and sustain over a period of time, it has to be politically acceptable, socially desirable, technologically feasible, financially viable, administratively doable, judicially tenable, emotionally relatable, and environmentally sustainable. So it's not very easy to make things happen, but you can make it happen. And that's what I am going to talk about today, that you can make it happen. There are two parts to it. First, you must understand and appreciate the circumstances in which you exist. Because without understanding the circumstances, it will be very difficult to make things happen. You should also be conscious of the fact that it is extremely difficult to alter this set of circumstances. They are a given. But if you appreciate the set of circumstances, if you understand the set of circumstances, if you fathom the nuances of set of circumstances, the chances are that you'll be able to make it happen by transforming yourself in a manner that you make things happen in those set of circumstances. I'll go on to explain all this. However, the problem again is we tend to blame the circumstances for our inefficiencies, for our failures, for our mistakes. You know, there is a couplet which is attributed to Ghalib. It's not a Ghalib, but I quote it because it conveys a very important meaning. उम्र भर यही भूल करता रहा गालिब, धूल चेहरे पे थी आईना मरता रहा. You can obviously and very easily blame others for your non-performance. But if you look around, you will find a large number of people like Dr. Narayan who are actually performing despite these set of circumstances, and then they should become people from whom you can learn. So you don't have to go anywhere else. I usually don't say that you should become a Mahatma Gandhi or Mahatma Buddha, because they were great people. They're sitting on the pedestal, nice to pray. But if you look at normal human beings who performed, you will know how to make it happen, because those guys have actually made it happen. Let me elaborate. When I said that you should appreciate the set of circumstances, and when I also said that any idea to become politically acceptable, then only it will travel a distance. By using the term politically acceptable, I don't mean the politician. He may be a politician. I mean the decision maker. And decision maker could be anybody. He could be your mother at home, your boss in your office, your principal. A decision maker is something that you have to convey in a manner so that that person is able to appreciate the point that you're making. Now, you can keep cursing your boss, as I also did. You can keep cursing the politician, I did in the first 10 years of my career. I achieved nothing except cursing them. They are a given. The politician is a given. The boss is a given. Parents are a given. Friends, sometimes choice, sometimes given. But you can't do a nut to them. What do you do to yourself? And hence, you have to evolve as a person to be reckoned with. खुदी पुकार बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से कुछ पूछे पता तेरी वजह क्या है. अब इस खुदी को बुलंद कैसे करें? That's the key. And once you do that, you'll be able to make it happen. Now, let me start by explaining the first concept of how do you make an idea politically acceptable? How do you couch your idea in a manner that when you present it to somebody, he agrees with you? Lot depends on you. Lot depends on how you develop your own communication skills to be able to convey a thought in a manner that the person who's listening to you agrees with you. Amongst yourself, you will see, जब ये बात कहता है तो इसकी सब सुनते हैं, मैं कहती हूं तो कोई सुनता नहीं. तो उसको समझिए वो कैसे कह रहा है, क्या कह रहा है, कब कह रहा है, क्यों कह रहा है. That's a faculty that you, my friends, since most of you are, or all of you are younger than me, I will totally focus on you. What can you do? And I'll give you some examples of how I committed errors in my earlier part of my lifetime, and later on, how I overcame those problems. When I did my class 12, I had physics, chemistry, maths as my subjects. So most of you are scientists sitting here. So you would know that beyond sine squared theta plus cos squared theta is equal to 1, you had no idea about communication skills. I could not speak 5 sentences in English or Hindi when I switched over to humanities, because in those days it was felt that there are better chances of you becoming an IAS officer if you took humanities. But I could barely speak or write. So I went through a drill, and I'm not going to talk about it until this time permits today, to improve my communication skills. Then I became a debater for the university. But still, when I joined the service, I had this erroneous impression that all politicians are rascals and ruffians. And how wrong I was. It took me some time to discover that not all of them are like that. And if in any case some of them were, which indeed they were, what could I do to them? Nothing. So how do I respond? How do I package? I keep repeating this point, my point of view in a manner that it gets accepted. Let me give you a few examples from my own career. I was posted here in Lucknow as Special Secretary to Mr. Kalyan Singh, the then Chief Minister, as also Director Information and Public Relations. The job of Director Information is a very important one. Every morning I used to go to his residence, Chief Minister's residence, show him what was published in the newspaper and sought guidance on how to react. Now, in that position, you're very close to the Chief Minister. However, this particular incident was when I was not close to him. I'd just taken over as Director Information. And I remember in one of the mornings, I'd gone to his residence, where I saw that the Chief Secretary, who's the top bureaucrat in the state, and the Director General of Police, they were standing there. The Chief Minister was sitting, and he appeared to be upset on some point. So I stood beside the Chief Secretary and listened to the conversation. The conversation was around a by-election that was to take place in Uttar. 7 political meetings had been lined up for the Chief Minister, and he was upset because he was not well. He said, "Kisne laga di saath meeting? Meri tabiyat theek nahi, main kaise karunga saath meeting?" As soon as he completed his sentence, the Chief Secretary nodded with him. "Yes, sir, aapki tabiyat theek nahi hai. So did DGP. हाँ sir, आप कैसे जाएंगे?" अब मुझसे चुप नहीं रहा गया. मेरी आदत पहले से खराब थी, आज भी खराब है. मैं चुप नहीं रह पाता हूँ. शायद ये आदत मुझे आज भी बदलनी पड़ेगी. मैं बोल पड़ा. मैंने कहा, "सर, कुछ दिन पहले मैं डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट था. जब चीफ मिनिस्टर आते हैं तो बड़ी तैयारियां होती हैं, लोगों को बड़ी आशाएं होती हैं, अपेक्षाएं होती हैं. सर, आप लास्ट मोमेंट पे कैंसिल मत कीजिए. 2 मिनट के लिए जाइए, नमस्कार कीजिए और कह दिए तबीयत ठीक नहीं, इसलिए आप नहीं बोल पाएंगे." उनमें मेरी तरफ घूर के देखा, क्या मैं जा सकता हूँ? जैसे ही उन्होंने कहा, चीफ सेक्रेटरी मुझे कोनी मारने लगे चुप रहने के लिए. मैं चुप नहीं हुआ. मैंने कहा, "सर, मेरा तो आपको राय है, निर्णय आपको लेना है." चीफ सेक्रेटरी और जोर के मुझे कोनी मारने लगे. उसके बाद 10 सेकंड कोई नहीं बोला. मुझे ऐसा लगा मुझे कमरे से बाहर फेंक दिया जाएगा. उसके बाद फिर चीफ मिनिस्टर मेरी तरफ घूमे और अब की बार हल्का से मुस्कुरा के बोले, "हाँ अनिल जी, आप सही कह रहे हैं, मुझे जाना चाहिए." जैसे ही उन्होंने कहा, चीफ सेक्रेटरी ने एकदम अपनी कोहनी नीचे खींची. "हाँ सर, बिल्कुल सही कह रहा है." I was learning it the hard way, that speak your mind out. But perhaps I was gradually also learning how to do it. Now, I had clean forgotten this. I had forgotten that. When Kalyan Singh became chief minister once again, the second time, he rang me up because I did not have the habit of going and calling on politicians. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's how I was made. So he was a bit annoyed. He said, "Anil ji, आप हमसे मिलने नहीं आए." मैंने कहा, "सर, अब ये भी आप मंत्री बने, मैं आता हूँ आपसे मिलने." अभी आ गया, चला गया. मैं कमरे में घुसा उनके अंदर, तो कहते हैं, "मैं तुम्हें अपना सचिव बनाना चाहता हूँ." By that time I had got promoted from special secretary to secretary. मैंने कहा, "ठीक है सर, तो पूछोगे नहीं क्यों बनाना चाहते?" मैंने, "सर, आपने सोच समझ के निर्णय लिया हो." "बैठो, मैं बताता हूँ." बैठ गया मैं. सर, फिर क्या कहते हैं, मैं ये याद है. He had remembered that. In fact, in my 4th book, Encounters with Politicians, that book was written because I was going through my diary. And on the day Kalyan Singh remembered that episode, it is mentioned in my diary on that day, not on the day it happened. So when I read this incident, I found it very interesting. So I said, "Yes, to banta hai." Then when I read through the diary, and this book came in 6 months because so many incidents, some of which I'm going to put. The point that I'm trying to make here is, you may have a difference opinion with your boss. Your boss may initially not agree with you, but if you can couch it in appropriate language, then the chances are that your point will come through. This can apply to your friend, your parents, to anybody, to your boss. It is not merely politician. Now I'm fast tracking it to another, say, 25 years when I became Coal Secretary, Government of India. This is 2014. All scams have broken out. Mr. Modi picks me up. And very interestingly, why I'm telling you this is, it is not material whether you are doing well in a government, because if you are good, everyone will pick you up. In the previous government, Dr. Manmohan Singh had picked me up to be a part of Cabinet Secretariat to fast-track projects. And the new government came, Mr. Modi picks me up as Coal Secretary. I had no clue about the sector. So I rang up a friend of mine. मैंने उससे पूछा यार ये सेक्टर कैसा है कोल? So he didn't answer my question. He asked me a question. Gangs of Wasseypur देखी है क्या? That's the issue. You know, sometimes questions answer your questions. So in the first meeting, the Prime Minister again, and the Power Secretary, Energy Secretary, who later on became the Cabinet Secretary, made a presentation on 6 slides. Every slide he said, this problem is because of coal, shortage of coal. This problem is because of shortage of coal. This problem is because of coal. So when the presentation was over, the Prime Minister turned towards me and asked me, Anil ji, आपने देखा, आप कोल की समस्या का समाधान कर दीजिए, देश की आर्थिक स्थिति सुधर जाएगी. Huge statement by the Prime Minister, first meeting. How do you respond? I disagreed with him, but I couldn't say I disagree with you. By that time, I had matured. Never start with a disagreement. So I said, sir, आप सही कह रहे हैं. और फिर मैंने क्या कहा? मैंने कहा सर, पर यह क्या ये कहना उचित होगा कि ऊर्जा क्षेत्र की समस्त समस्याएं कोयले की वजह से? हमें सर इसे कॉम्प्रिहेंसिवली देखना होगा ना सर. उसमें टी&डी लॉसेस हैं और भी समस्याएं, जनरेशन की समस्याएं हैं. तो ये एग्रीड विद मी. हाँ अनिल जी, आप सही कह रहे हैं, ये तो कॉम्प्रिहेंसिवली देखना होगा. फिर देन ही टर्न्स टुवर्ड्स मिस्टर पीयूष गोयल, हु वाज द पावर एंड कोल मिनिस्टर, एंड सेड अनिल जी सही कह रहे हैं, आपको इसको कॉम्प्रिहेंसिवली देखना होगा. अब देखिए इस शब्द का कितना प्रभाव पड़ा. For next 2 years, I had a smooth sailing because Mr. Piyush Goyal had a wrong impression that I was close to Mr. Modi. Life बड़ी बढ़िया निकल गई अगले 2 साल. By the time he discovered that I was not close to Modi, I was transferred out of integration. Poll happened because I could get away with blue murder. जो भी मैं कहता था मान लेते थे. You can't imagine. All because of the developed communication skills on understanding. And one more incident before I can go on this, but I must narrate this incident to you because this also relates to the Prime Minister. Because not many people have the courage to speak before the Prime Minister. I've seen him very closely. Everyone agrees with me outside, then keeps shut inside. But I didn't. And I'll tell you why. The last meeting with Mr. Modi, and I've written in my book, my first meeting I disagreed with him. My last meeting I disagreed with him. On both cases, he agreed with me. What happens at the last meeting? I am Secretary School Education, Government of India. I get a call from Principal Secretary to Prime Minister, with whom I had worked. Incidentally, when I was Mr. Kalyan Singh, I was Secretary, he was Principal Secretary. So we knew each other. So Mr. Nived Mishra rang me up, Anil, जरा आज शाम को आके Prime Minister को health insurance के बारे में बताओ. मैंने कहा मैं तो Education Secretary हूँ. नहीं, तुमने बड़ी अच्छी health insurance स्कीम चलाई थी. वो बड़ी अच्छी चली थी. हम लोग पिछले 3 साल से कोशिश कर रहे हैं प्राइम मिनिस्टर को समझाने के लिए. वो हर बार नाराज हो जाते हैं. तो मैंने उनसे कहा साहब आप मेरी डांट पड़वाएंगे जब आपको पता है नाराज हो जाते हैं. मैं क्यों? नहीं, तुम आगे कोशिश करो, स्कीम जरूरी है, आनी होनी चाहिए. ठीक, पहुंच गए शाम को. हेल्थ सेक्रेटरी मेक्स अ प्रेजेंटेशन, अ वेरी फाइन ऑफिसर. बट आफ्टर द प्रेजेंटेशन प्राइम मिनिस्टर इज अगेन अ बिट अनॉयड. अरे भाई आप लोग इंश्योरेंस कंपनी की क्यों हिमायत कर रहे हैं? आप कोई और निकालिए ना, कैसे इंश्योरेंस होगा? Then he turns towards me, अनिल जी आप रहे हैं इंश्योरेंस में, आपकी क्या राय है? मेरी राय उनकी राय से बिल्कुल उल्टी थी. मतलब जो हेल्थ सेक्रेटरी ने कहा था वही राय थी. But I had done my homework. You know, that's very important. Whenever you go to talk to somebody, do your homework thoroughly. So I had done my homework. I made a presentation and I argued on those 15 minutes why insurance can solve health problem in this country. He heard me out 15 minutes. You know, people know the Prime Minister is an excellent speaker, which indeed he is. But he's even a better listener. Didn't interrupt me even once. एक टक क्यों सुनते रहे. और जब मैंने खत्म किया तो कहते हैं हाँ अनिल जी आप सही कह रहे हैं, हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस होनी चाहिए. On that day, Ayushman Bharat was born. This was written later. So a whole change in his thought process could happen because one could put it. But how did and why did I do it? You know, as I was walking out of that room, one of the joint secretaries and the PMO asked me, sir, आपको तो पता था नाराज हो जाते हैं, फिर भी आपने अपनी बात कह दी. मैंने कहा यार देखो ना, मुझे इनसे आज कुछ चाहिए, मैं रिटायरमेंट के बाद कुछ चाहिए. जो मैंने ठीक समझा बता दिया, बाकी ये जाने. Now the lesson to youngsters sitting here is, and I hope you take note of it, is don't expect anything from others. I'm repeating it. Expectations are inversely proportional to happiness. Think about it. Expectation from your parents, from your friends, from your bosses. Then you will treat whatever comes to you as a bonus. Why? It's very practical. You know, whatever I'm going to talk today, there's no gyan in it. I don't have any gyan to give. It's all practice. I practice it. I fumbled, committed mistakes, moved on. So one thing that I learned over a period of time, the lesser expectations you have of others, the happier you are. Think over it, reflect over it. Your life will become very simple, easy. Because expectations make you unhappy. Because he is going to do or she is going to do what she has to do. You have no control over them. They will do what they are. I mean, think over it. Sorry. Let me take a extreme point of view. Can anybody insult you if you don't feel insulted? Think over it. There is no such thing as objective reality. If you want to make things happen, you have to be totally focused on yourself. In that sense, I'm using this term, please don't misinterpret me, become selfish. Selfish in the sense that unless you are totally focused on yourself, bringing about a change will be difficult. And that's what the Mahatma said, be the change you wish to see in the world. That's precisely what he meant. How can you think? I see so many IAS officers, as I was when I joined the service, ये भी करूंगा, वो भी करूंगा, इसको ठीक करूंगा, उसको ठीक करूंगा, जिन्हें क्या क्या करने लगते। अरे छोड़िए, जोश ना रखिए उतना जितना होश रखिए. Evolve as an individual to be reckoned with. And now I will come to steps that you youngsters can take to evolve as an individual to be reckoned with so as to make things happen on the ground. Because bottom line is performance. You know, we in government come up with policies after policies, statements after statements. The man on the ground wants action. He wants things to happen there. हम कोई ज्ञान बांटें यहाँ बैठकर, कोई चिंतन करें, until we are able to deliver on the ground, and that applies to every individual. And you can deliver on the ground only if you make yourself capable of doing that. What stops you from becoming capable of what the potential you have? मेरा तो ये मानना है आप सब अनुमान कीजिए. All of you have such enormous potential, but the problem is that you are spending your time elsewhere. And that brings me to the next point. How many of you sitting here can change your past? Can anybody change his or her past sitting here? But imagine the amount of time that we spend in brooding over what has happened in the past. Friends, the only relevance that the past has for us today are the lessons, both from failures, mistakes, as well as from our victories and successes. Lessons, lessons, and lessons. Nothing else. You can't change it, but you can learn from it. So all our commitment, all our time should be in terms of analyzing what went wrong, how did it go wrong, can I improve upon it, period. If you start contesting, which many of us had the habit, यार ये तो हुआ ही नहीं, उसने कहा नहीं ये हुआ, अरे हुआ ही नहीं हुआ, आपसे क्या लेना एक न देना, आप क्या बदल लेंगे उसे? By digging graves, you will find only stench coming out of it. Why dig graves? Go into the cause of why it happened. If you can understand the cause, then probably you will correct yourself or strengthen yourself if there are successes. So the only relevance that I see, and if you want to make things happen on the ground, you have to use past only for lessons and nothing else. Future का पता नहीं. हम लोग कहते हैं future का, वो हॉरोस्कोप देखते हैं, हाथ भी देखते हैं, वो सब बताते हैं फ्यूचर क्या है. मैं भी जब कोल में बना था ना, मैं थोड़ा शुरू में परेशान था कि कहाँ फंस गए. तो मेरा एक मित्र है, उसकी मैं बहुत टांग खींचता हूँ. वो हॉरोस्कोप, मैं हॉरोस्कोप नहीं कहता, मैं हॉरोस्कोप कहता हूँ. वो हॉरोस्कोप देखता है, वो राष्ट्रीय स्तर का वो है एस्ट्रोलॉजर, टीवी भी आता है, सर मुड़ा रखा है. मैं गया उसके बाद ऐसी मजाक में, मैंने उसे अपना हाथ देखा, मैंने बॉस फुल सेक्रेटरी बन गए, क्या रहेगा? बोले बॉस अगले 3 महीने आपके बड़े खराब, बड़ा चैलेंज है, बड़ी परेशानी है. मैंने कहा अच्छा? बोले हाँ बड़ा खराब. मैंने उसके बाद, बोले उसके बाद आदत पड़ जाएगी. उसने तो कुछ बताया नहीं. आई एम टेलिंग यू, you have no past is done and dusted and you don't know about the future. The only thing that you know is now, today. And friends, especially my young friends, if you can focus on the now, the chances are that your future will be made. Because you have control over that now. You have control over whether you want to sit in this hall or not. And you also have control whether you are listening to Mr. Anil Swarup or your mind is elsewhere. That's now. And my experience tells me, and that's what is the essence of Karmanye Vadikaraste, Mahafilishi Badaja. I never understood this meaning because initially, in the first few years of my existence as an individual, as a youngster, I did not win a single prize, medal, certificate, or anything till class 7. And I was very frustrated. My mother used to tell me, "Tumhara samay aayega, kyun pareshan hote ho?" And then she used to this Sanskrit phrase, "Karmanye Vadikaraste Mahafilishi Badachana." Mere ko ek shad nahi samajh mein aata. It was later in life that I understood the meaning of this phrase. I was posted as sub-divisional magistrate in a place called Hardoi, 120 kilometers, 150 kilometers from here. Not very far from Lucknow. Very criminal district. Fortunately, everything was fine. But October 31st, 1984, Mrs. Indira Gandhi was assassinated. All hell broke loose. Members of the ruling party were burning shops of minority community people. So as sub-divisional magistrate, I used to go around the place trying to see everything is in order. And then I got this intelligence that a very powerful local MLA was behind this arson and looting. I was in a dilemma. What should I do? Finally, I decided to make out a case under the National Security Act. It's again in news for wrong reasons, though, nowadays. So I made out a case against it and sent it to the district magistrate, who was the deciding authority. Now, this MLA got the wind of it and he was very upset. कोई उससे ऊंची आवाज में नहीं बोलता था. मैंने फाइल भेज दी. वो लखनऊ आ गया. लखनऊ आ गया. I don't know किससे बात की. I was summoned to Lucknow. So I drove in my jeep to Lucknow. Entered the room of a very senior IAS officer. और जैसे ही मैं घुसा, उन्होंने मेरी तरफ देखा, नहीं लिया, तुमने क्या कर दिया? मैंने उनको बताया, सर ये कर दिया. बोले किया तो तुमने ठीक है, लेकिन तुम फाइल वापस ले लो. मैंने साहब अगर ठीक किया तो फाइल क्यों वापस ले? बोले अरे तुम नए नए आए हो अभी सर्विस में, क्यों लड़ते हो नेताओं से? मैंने साहब मैं लड़ थोड़ी ना रहा हूँ. मेरे पास ये आई है इन्फॉर्मेशन, मैं इसका केस बना के भेज दिया. डीएम रिजेक्ट कर दे. नहीं, अरे समझा करो भाई, तुम्हें आगे बहुत आगे जाना है, तुम क्या करते हो, वापस करो. तब मेरे मुंह से वो शब्द निकल गए जो शायद आज की तारीख में नहीं निकलते. यही सब चीजें हैं. मैंने उसका सर वो तो तीर है, निकल गया, सर वापस कैसे आया? किस्सा खत्म हो गया. मैं अपने went back to my district and I was transferred out. I was totally shaken, distraught. मैं सोचा वो भी कह रहा था मेरी कोई गलती नहीं, मेरा ट्रांसफर क्यों कर दी? Anyway, I went out. 7 years down the line, I became district magistrate of another close by district, Lakhimpur Kheri. You would have heard of it, north of Lucknow. My reputation had traveled, and those were the days of Ram Janmabhoomi agitation, 1991. All hell was breaking loose in this state. All other districts were under curfew, but Lakhimpur Kheri was not put under curfew. You know why? Because they thought ये खड़ूस है DSP magistrate, किसी की नहीं सुनेगा, जो गड़बड़ करेगा बंद करेगा. So I was benefiting out of that reputation. But you know, as luck would have it, a murder happened. District president of a ruling party, of the ruling party, he wanted to take out a funeral procession for political purpose. मैंने उसको बुलाया. मैंने कहा भाई आप ही की सरकार है, यहाँ प्रोसेशन निकालेंगे, कम्युनल राइट होंगे, क्यों निकालना चाहते हैं? नहीं साहब मैं तो निकाली. तो मैंने उसको बंद कर दिया. एंड आई टोल्ड माय वाइफ यार वहां तो सिर्फ फाइल चलाई थी, तो ट्रांसफर हुआ था, यहाँ बंद कर दिया, सस्पेंशन आ जाएगा. शाम को चीफ मिनिस्टर का फोन आया मेरे पास. मुलायम सिंह जी थे चीफ मिनिस्टर. फोन पे मुझसे बोले, डीएम साहब आपने हमारे अध्यक्ष जी को बंद कर दिया, क्यों किया? मैंने समझाया. नहीं उनको कुछ छोड़ने का तरीका निकालिए. मैंने कहा साहब आपकी सरकार है, आपकी एक बार से सब ठीक चल रहा है, मैं उनको निकालूंगा, वो फ्यूनरल प्रोसेशन निकालेंगे और यहाँ राइट होंगे. नहीं कोई तरीका निकालिए. मैंने कहा साहब ऐसा कीजिए, या तो आप बात कीजिए, आपको लखनऊ उनसे बात करे, उनसे कहे कि साहब ये फ्यूनरल प्रोसेशन ना निकालें. ठीक, बैंक द फोन डाउन. समझ गया सुबह तक कुछ ना कुछ हो ही जाएगा. सुबह मेरे पास फोन आया and I was informed that that gentleman has agreed not to take out the funeral procession. Probably somebody, I don't know, but probably somebody had spoken to him. So I released him. This is not the end of the story. 3 months down the line, the same chief minister who was so annoyed with me awarded me as one of the finest district magistrate of this. तब मुझे समझ में आया कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन. कर्म तो मैंने वहां भी किया था, कर लिया, वहां मेरा ट्रांसफर हो गया मुझे. So friends, if you do your karma properly, the chances are that you'll get good result. But since you have no control over result, you have to enjoy that karma. You have to enjoy that process. You have to enjoy that moment. And that is something which will help you evolve as a person to be reckoned with. If you can enjoy what you are doing, the job is by and large done. It is when you don't enjoy what you're doing. You know, when I was in service, there were many occasions that I was asked to do things which I did not like. So I made a conscious effort to develop a liking for them. Post-retirement, I am a happy man because I don't do things which I don't like, because I don't have to bother. People used to ask me, आप तो मोदी जी के इतने नजदीक थे, आप मिल लेते तो आपको जिन्हें अच्छा assignment मिल जाता. मैंने किसको चाहिए ऐसा अच्छा assignment? I want my freedom. I'm thoroughly enjoying. So again, it's a choice. I'm not saying what I did is right, what others are doing is wrong. No, no. It's a personal choice. Take responsibility of it. But the key factor is, how do you change yourself? How do you change the habit? And youngsters, if you listen to this carefully, you can change your habits. I'll just give you one instance. There can be many such instances. When I was preparing for the civil service examination, is there any candidate here who wants to become a civil servant here? None. Okay. So when I was preparing for civil service, I had taken law as a paper. No, I'd never studied law. So again, I had very nice friends. So I asked a friend of mine, यार क्या करें? बोले बॉस, इसमें तो आपको बहुत सारे की स्टडीज याद करने पड़ेंगे. हमने कहा कैसे करें? बोले सुबह उठ के याद करें. मैं निशाचर था, मैं रात को पढ़ता था और दिन में सोचा था. तब चेंज कैसे करें हैबिट? No, just again listen to this carefully. If you want to change a habit, associate that change with something which you like a lot. So I'm still very fond of cricket. I think half my mind is in the India-West Indies match, but I'm very fond of cricket. I was passionate about cricket. I'm talking late 1970s. India had traveled to Australia for 5 test matches. And those that are familiar with test cricket and in Australia will know that the matches in Australia start at 5:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time. So I woke up for 25 days, because 5 test matches, 5 days each, at 5:30 a.m. to listen to commentary. On the TV to thani. And I got into the habit of getting up at 5:30. Even today, without an alarm, I get up at 5:30. To young friends sitting here, girls and boys, have a boyfriend who wakes up at 5:30 and gives you a call. या तो boyfriend छूट जाएगा या आप सुबह जल्दी उठने लगेगा. So you have to decide what you want to do. If you associate that change with something which you like, the chances that you change. You have to be innovative. You have to find, but that's very important. Another thing which holds us back in making things happen is a fear of failure. Fear of committing mistakes. होता है ना, डर लगता है गलती ना हो. Without realizing that there's nobody on this earth who hasn't committed a mistake. You know of anybody who's committed no mistake? You know of anybody who hasn't had any failure in their lives? In fact, Mahatma Gandhi's entire book, My Experiments in Truth, is about his mistakes and failures. He had the courage in him to admit those mistakes publicly. So committing mistake is not a crime. But committing the same mistake is certainly a crime. So if you reflect on your mistakes, you will not commit the same mistake. और ये मैं सिर्फ ज्ञान की बात नहीं, अनुभव से बता. I was mentioning to you about my becoming a debater when I switched over to humanities. I became a debater. I used to go all around the country debating for my university. And there is an IIT Kanpur used to be the best institute around that time. And they used to have this annual cultural festival in which debating was a marquee event. So I was representing my university there at the debating competition. One day before the competition, there was a music competition. तो जैसे होता मैं समझता था मैं भी गाना गा लेता हूँ. हर दिन सोचता कुछ ना कुछ गा ही लेता है. मैंने अपना नाम दे दिया म्यूजिक competition. So there were 1,500 strong students sitting in the pandal, and my name was announced. Anil Swarup. Everyone clapped. No, they thought कोई बढ़िया गाने वाला आया है. मैं गया, गाना शुरू किया, गलत सुर पकड़ लिया. Within 10 seconds, I was booed out of the auditorium. I was shell shocked. I didn't know what had hit me. I didn't know kahan chup jaun, yahan chup jaun, chup jaun. Obviously, I decided not to participate in the debate on the following day. So one of my seniors came to me and said, "Boss, सुना आप कल debate में participate नहीं करना." मैंने कहा, उस ऑडियंस के सामने कौन जाएगा, मार डालेंगे मुझे। बोले, बॉस आपने दो गलतियां की। पहला, आप अपने आप को तानसेन समझते थे, बिना रियाज किए हुए गाना चलेगा। और दूसरा, जहां आपने रियाज किया है वहां पार्टिसिपेट नहीं करें। Now this discussion lasted for more than an hour, after which I was convinced that I should participate in the debate. I had overcome my fears. It's very important because it was then I was gradually realizing कि गलती हो गई, हाँ गलती हो गई. And then I decided to participate in the debate on the following day. Sure enough, when my name was announced, Anil Swarup, everyone started shouting, Gayak aa gaya. They thought the same person has come and will sing a different song. I had overcome my fears. I went and spoke. I got the first prize in the national debating competition. Friends, I have not looked back after that. These days, I travel all over the world. Last year, I had gone to 4 American universities, including Harvard and Berkeley, where they invited me to deliver a talk. I have absolutely no problem. Because I know that I can commit a mistake. I also know that I will not commit the same mistake again. So that's the key. We all commit mistakes. There's another thing that holds us back. You know, why I'm talking about holding you back? Because I treat each one of you with enormous potential. But there are few things that are holding you back. So I'm mentioning some of them here. Others are there in my book. You can make it happen. But I'm mentioning some of them here. Other thing that holds me back is my idea of aping others. मैं अपनी खुशी के लिए नहीं कर रहा, दूसरों को impress करने के लिए. You know, I live in Delhi now, and in past 2 decades or more, I have not seen a single individual driving his own Mercedes car. Mercedes car का मजा जो है चलाने में ही बड़ी मक्खन से चलती है. और पीछे वाली सीट में बैठते हैं साथ जो ओनर हैं, जो पुरानी मर्सिडीज कार होती थी, जो लोअर सीट वाली होती थी, very uncomfortable. I've sat in many of them. I feel very comfortable getting in and getting out. फिर भी वो मर्सिडीज कार खरीदता है 1 करोड़ रुपए की. क्यों खरीदता है? क्यों खरीदता है? पड़ोसी के लिए. हम कितने काम दूसरों को इंप्रेस करने के लिए करते हैं, सोचिएगा एक बार. There are so many ladies sitting here. Please don't take me otherwise. I've yet to understand why do ladies wear 6-inch heel? It must be very uncomfortable. I've not worn it, but I'm assuming it would be uncomfortable. But there could be some reason. You're trying to impress somebody. The whole fashion industry thrives on making you believe that it is only the show off that matters. कितना टाइम आप स्पेंड करते हैं, और ये आपके साथ ही नहीं है, मेरे साथ भी था. आप ये सोच रहे हो मैं आपके लिए कर रहा हूं, मैं सबसे गुजर चुका हूं. जो भी मैं बता रहा हूं सबसे गुजर चुका हूं. जब मैं यूनिवर्सिटी में था तो उन दिनों अमिताभ बच्चन शिखर पे थे. बहुत बढ़िया है, थे भी बढ़िया. किसी ने मुझे कह दिया, बॉस आपकी आवाज तो अमिताभ बच्चन जैसी. अरे आवाज छोड़ दी, मैं अपने आप को अमिताभ बच्चन समझने लगा. बाल बड़े किए, अब तो है नहीं, बाल बड़े किए, बेल बॉटम पहना, मोटी बेल्ट पहनी. आज की तारीख में उस समय की फोटो देखता हूं तो देखकर डर लगता है. और उस समय मैं अपने आप को अमिताभ बच्चन समझता था. तो धीरे धीरे समझ में आया, अमिताभ बच्चन में अनिल स्वरूप है. मैं वो क्यों बनना चाहता हूं भाई? There is no harm in learning from others. There's no harm. Learn from whoever you can. But aping others, हमारे टाइम पे जाने कितने लोगों ने सिगरेट पीना इसलिए शुरू कर दिया क्योंकि शत्रुघ्न जना सिगरेट पी के छल्ले निकालते थे. उनके तो छल्ले हो गए, इनके बल्ले बल्ले हो गए. What is the big deal? So instead of aping people around, learn. This is another point that I'm coming to. There's so much to learn from others. We don't do that sufficiently. So much you can learn from others. भाई रामचंद्र जी ने लक्ष्मण को रावण के पास क्यों भेजा था? बिकॉज उसमें भी कुछ गुण है. अब ये अगर इसकी बैटरी आप निकाल दीजिए तो दिन में 2 बार ये भी सही टाइम दिखाई. Every person has certain positive qualities. You have to learn from them. And friends, I must tell you that I'm still learning. I started from my schooling days. Not only schooling, even before that, I learned from my parents, my uncle, my siblings. In the college, I remember I had a terrible handwriting. I used to study here in Uttar College. And a friend of mine had an excellent handwriting. तो बड़ा ध्यान से देखा था, यार ये कैसे दिखता है. फिर मैंने धीरे धीरे करके अपनी हैंडराइटिंग उतनी अच्छी तो नहीं बना पाया, बट मेड इट लेजिबल एंड आई कुड क्वालिफाइड फॉर द IIS. पहले तो लेजिबल ही नहीं थी, मैंने क्या कीड़े मकोड़े डाल. उसी तरह देयर इज अनदर फ्रेंड ऑफ माइन हु इज आल्सो इन द IIS राइट नाउ. I used to see him carrying a book always with him, but I never saw him reading. तो मैंने उससे एक दिन पूछा, यार किताब लेकर चलते कोई पढ़ते हुए नहीं देखा? बोले बॉस ऐसा है कि जब मैं खाली होता हूँ, जब कोई नहीं होता तब मैं पढ़ता हूँ. Bingo. You know, I got into this habit. And till 3 years ago, now of course I don't read much. I used to read 100 books a year. And people ask me, is secretary government limited? Yes. I always found time. It's a question of which habit you are picking up from each individual. You can pick a lot of good habits from others. It's a question of getting things done. Yesterday or day before yesterday, I did a case study of pickup. I don't know how many of you know pickup. It's no more heard so much, but at my point, when I was there, it was that point in time had come down. You know, I was posted as MD pickup when it was making losses. And there I got the most corrupt general manager to change his ways. That's a case study. Because I appealed to his good sense, and fortunately it worked. It turned around the organization to making profit after making losses for 7 years. So the question is, there's no perfect individual on this earth. You know, I've discussed a concept called wabi-sabi in my book. There are many other Japanese concepts. And what is wabi-sabi? Wabi-sabi is basically, if you wait for perfection, that will never arise. So you move on, move towards perfection, but don't wait for objective perfections to become perfect for you to move on. You should move on with what you have. Try and deliver what you can. And the chances are that you move towards, you may or may not become perfect. Why be obsessed with perfection? So that's another thing. I'll just make one more point and then we'll get into an interaction mode, because one-way traffic is sometimes very boring. This is the final point I want to make to you. You know, maximum amount of time that we waste is on issues over which we have absolutely no control. अरे ट्रंप ने क्या कर दिया, अरे बुश ने क्यों वॉर कर दिया इराक पे. These are very important issues, not that they're not important. I remember when I was a youngster, I believe that I still am, but I was really a youngster. I used to get very agitated while getting stuck in traffic jams. So one day my wife was traveling with me. So I again got stuck in a traffic jam and I was agitated. Did क्या हो गया? बोले देखो कितना खराब है ट्रैफिक. So she asked me a very simple question. तुम इनका कुछ कर सकते हो? मैंने कहा मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ? अरे जब कुछ कर नहीं सकता तो खून क्यों फैला रहा? So just reflect on this issue and you will discover that you spend so much time over issues over which you have absolutely no control. Before I joined the IS, I was in the police service. So a batchmate of mine, I'm talking of 1980, walked up to me and asked me, boss, रात को नींद नहीं आ रही. क्या? बॉस, पेट्रोलियम के दाम बहुत बढ़ रहे हैं. मैंने कहा दाम तो बढ़ रहे हैं, तुम्हारे रात को ना सोने से कम हो जाएंगे क्या? नहीं बॉस, देश की आर्थिक स्थिति पर खूब प्रभाव पड़ रहा. मैं उनको मिस्टर परेशान कहता था, जो सिर्फ परेशान रहते हैं, करते करते कुछ नहीं, परेशान है. मैंने कहा यार बात बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हो, चिंता करो, चिंतन करो, चर्चा करो, लेकिन रात की नींद तो उसी चीज के लिए हैरान करो जिसका तुम कुछ कर सकते हो. मैं कहा फालतू में तुम रात को नहीं सो रहे हो. तो काफी बहस के बाद वो सहमत हो गया. बोला अच्छा हाँ बॉस, मेरे रात को ना सोने से तो कम नहीं होंगी. चला 3 महीने बाद फिर आया, कहता बॉस रात को नींद नहीं है. मैंने कहा क्या हो गया? पेट्रोलियम दाम तो अपने आप ठीक होगा बिना तुम्हारे इंटरवेंशन के. कहता बॉस देश की पॉपुलेशन बढ़ रही है. मैंने उससे कहा रात को सो जाओ, अपने आप ठीक हो जाएगी. See the point that I'm trying. Thank you very much, all of you, for being me. You know, I have a lot to say. It's, as they say, it's very easy to talk, very difficult to walk. These days, I'm only talking. I enjoy talking. I can keep on talking, but I'd like to have an interactive session with you. So shoot any question that you have in mind. Whatever that is left, maybe I'll explain that during the course of that interactive session. So what are you questions that you have? If you can have a mic going around, or we can hear you in any case, if you speak aloud. Any question? Question, observation, comment, anything? Yes, at the back. Wonderful. Sir, why don't you come ahead a bit? इनको जगह दीजिए थोड़ा. देखिए इन्होंने हिम्मत की वहां से. मैं आपको बता दूं, मैं आप में से किसी का कोई नुकसान नहीं कर सकता. पूछिए. वाह वाह वाह, माइक भी पहुंच गया भैया. आप अगर चाहो तो राह मिल जाती है. Sorry, if I had not become an IS?
मतलब मेरा सवाल ये है कि अगर आप IAS नहीं बनते तो आपने कुछ और कैरियर ऑप्शंस
देखिए, मैं आपको थोड़ा सा बैकग्राउंड बता दूं इस पे आपने पूछा, क्योंकि हर चीज की एक पृष्ठभूमि होती है. देयर इज अ बैकग्राउंड टू व्हाट यू आर. When I was 11 years of age or 12 years of age, I saw a piece of paper written by my dad, which listed out how I will become an IIT officer. BA में क्या लेंगे, MA क्या लेंगे, सब्जेक्ट क्या लेंगे, सब उन्होंने पहले ही लिख दिया. He was a great planner. तब मुझे पता नहीं था ऐसा. So I started finding out about it. I met a few IITs. And I felt so obsessed. I said, बनूंगा तो मैं IIT officer. So I had no plan B at all. And I can tell the youngsters here, if you prepare for UPSC, you don't have to be plan B. लोग क्या करते हैं, प्रिपरेशन यूपीएससी की करते हैं, प्रिपरेशन के लिए प्रिपरेशन नहीं करते. They do not develop attributes like comprehension, knowledge, analytical skills and expression, which are so essential to become a civil servant. And if you don't become a civil servant, if you develop these attributes, you'll succeed in life. But people don't. कोई coaching studio नहीं सिखाता, किताब पढ़ा देते. So I had absolutely no second option. I said, जब मैं पुलिस में आया, many people will think कि success है, मेरे लिए failure था. I had to become an IAS officer. So I found out what problems were there in the first year, overcame them, and got into the IAS. Now, reflecting on it, if there was an option available, I would have taught. I'd become a lecturer. I would have become a professor if I could, because I enjoy talking. That's the easiest thing to do now. Okay. Right. Any other question? Yes. इधर.
My name is Subhash and I am from the product of District Lava. I used to reside at Main Hostel and I am the field of leadership.
Oh, wow.
So my question is, recently at 1st October, we celebrated 100 years of the establishment of UPSC. And there was an interview of chairman and they were listing some sort of points to negotiate, like the removal of optional or related to he said, what do you take? What are the things that need to be reformed in the UPSC?
Many things. I have written a full article. It's a part of my book where I have written what really needs to be done. The problem with UPSC, UPSC is one of the finest organizations absolutely above board. No doubt about it, doing a fabulous job. There's a fundamental issue. Fundamental issue is you can't have the same examination for IAS, IPS, IFS and audit and accounts officer. Audit and accounts officer is sitting on a table handing files. IAS officer is a leader. And UPSC examination does not select leaders. Some of them accidentally become leaders. The real problem with bureaucracy today in India is not expertise. It is attitude. If you can take care of that, and these days you have instruments through which you can assess the attitude of an individual. By doing a paper on ethics, you don't become ethical. I don't think that's the right way of going about it. But you give me an individual, if I interact and sit with him for a day, I'll tell him what his attitude is. That can be done, but you'll have to spend much more time. But if you don't want to spend time with an officer who's going to become a district magistrate, he will destroy a district. He becomes the head of the department, he will destroy a department. He becomes Secretary Government of India, he will destroy that. No, you have to spend more time with IAS, IPS and IFS officers, because not to deride or belittle the role of other services, here you are in a leadership role, and unfortunately, UPSC examination as of now only tests the communication skill attribute of an officer, which is very important attribute, but there are many other attributes that need to be tested. Okay?
Thank you.
At the back.
I've spent 3 times. So, administration is all about input and it's very related to that. But do we need specialists? Or what is that for specialists? Like I see very common, I see the problem here, mentioned Lucknow and other districts. So, and I don't see input of specialists in that job. So, and I guess besides what has been done for powerful air. Maybe he does not want to, but you won't find specialists sitting there to solve that problem. And I think it's in most other sectors. So what is that system or like what to get specialists in specialized force. Rather than I was trying to.
Okay, so the real problem arises when you say generalist or specialist. You should have both. And roles very clearly defined. What is required of a generalist cannot be done by specialist. What is required by a specialist cannot be done by generalist. The problem arises when there is an overlapping of roles. As a civil servant, as coal secretary, I didn't know anything about coal, and I'm glad I didn't. Because if I knew a bit of it, I would fight with the specialist there. So what we did was, we defined our roles. I said, I will do what you can't, and you do what I can't. It is a problem when I start doing something which the other person has to do. So you have to incorporate them. The generalist has to manage the environment, which the specialist cannot. So I'll give you a very concrete example. When it came to which machines to be deployed to dig the coal, when it came to where to dig the coal, where it came to quality of coal, I didn't have anything. But when it came to acquisition of land for mining the coal, the specialist could do nothing. And I could engage with the chief secretary of that state and get that land done. So role definition is very critical. We tend to generalize and speak in a manner that to impinge on each other's role. Role definition is critical. So the problem here is not pollution, of course, is an issue. But pollution does not merely require a specialist intervention. Pollution also requires to educate people on how not to pollute. What has an environmentalist to do with that? So there is a role for a generalist there. There is a role for environment management. There is a role for specialists to see what sort of technology to be used to reduce pollution. But technology alone will not solve the problem of pollution. So when we discuss specialists and generalists as adversaries. One reason why I succeeded a bit, whatever little that I could, was I was able to define and respect the respective roles. That I think is very critical. Okay? Pass like you.
ऑफिस में एक सेट रूल रेगुलेशन प्रोसीजर है इतनी हमें लगता है कुछ दूसरी चीजें होती है जब हम अगर इतनी अपने आप को करेक्ट मान लें तो इससे लेते हैं ऑफिशियली इनकरेक्ट करते हैं और एक रेस्टर या एक डर रहता है कि उधर से डिपार्टमेंटल एक्शन नहीं हमारे पास ऐसी चीज की डिसीजन कैसे ली जाए हम मतलब ये बात जब मैं कह रहा हूँ ऐसी कुत्ता बोल सकती है या बीज का बस डीलिंग रहते हुए उन्होंने डिसीजन किया फॉर्मेट क्लियर किया उस समय उन दोनों लोगों के अपने एक्शन तो हाँ इस एक्शन हम डिसीजन
I am glad you raised this issue, and I'll spend some time on this. I'll explain this to you. First of all, we must understand the difference between ethos of an organization and your personal value system. You may have a personal value system. Everyone has a personal value. But if you joined an organization, especially a government organization, then you shall jolly well follow the ethos of the organization, the rules of the organization. There can't be a compromise. This has nothing to do with Ms. Hadri Gupta. I'll come to later on that. If you give me a concrete example, I'll give you one to explain this. You feel कि मुझे तो 10 घंटे काम करना है. अब मैं सुबह 8 बजे ऑफिस पहुंचूं या 11 बजे पहुंचूं, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? मैं 10 घंटे काम करूंगा. आपका है और आप अच्छा आउटपुट भी दे रहे हैं. लेकिन आपका ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ये कहता है कि आपको तो 9 बजे ऑफिस आना है. So there is a conflict between the value system. You are able to deliver. It's not delivery is a problem, but there's thoughts of the organization. Now you have two choices. Either you keep fighting with the organization or you quit, or you comply with the organization. What I would suggest to you is comply with that. Why? Because every organization has a discipline, and that discipline comes through rules. And if you don't follow those rules, then everyone will start interpreting rules in their own way, and there'll be chaos. And hence, it's in the organization interest you have to follow rules. However, many IAS officers raise this issue with me कि मैं तो करना चाहता हूं और नेता मुझे नहीं करने देता और ये मुझे नहीं करने देता. तो मैं उससे 2-3 प्रश्न करता हूं और कई प्रश्न कर सकता हूं. मैं कहता हूं किसी नेता ने तुम्हें सुबह ऑफिस लेट आने के लिए कहा है कभी? हम में से कितने लोग लेट जाते हैं? किसी नेता ने तुमसे कहा कि अपना ऑफिस गंदा रखो, कितने लोग गंदा रखते हैं? किसी नेता ने तुमसे कहा कि जो तुमसे मिलने आए उसे बदतमीजी से बोलो, हम में से कितने बदतमीजी बोलते हैं? सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. इन माय करियर ऑफ 38 years I discovered 90% नेता का तुमको रोल ही नहीं, और वो 10% में रोल है, उसी में हम परेशान रहते हैं. और अगर आप 90% ठीक कर लीजिए तो वो 10% में भी जगह नहीं, वो आपकी बात मानने लगे. So there will be occasions. Number one, this has to be understood by every officer. If there is a rule, no matter how it violates your personal value system, that rule has to be followed, period. However, there will be occasions where you can interpret that rule to your value system. I'll give you an example again. I was Director General Labor Welfare, handling an act called Building and the Construction Workers Act, in which we were collecting money to benefit construction workers. Now, issue came up for consideration whether brick kiln workers, यानी कि ईंट भट्टे वाले जो कर्मचारी हैं जो कर रहे हैं, उनको उससे लाभ मिल सकता नहीं मिल सकता. तो हमारे जॉइंट एक ऑफिसर ने लिखा कि साहब वो तो ईंट बनाता है, ईंट इस्तेमाल होती है, लेकिन ईंट में तो वो नहीं वो खुद तो घर तो नहीं बनाता, और अगर आप इनको देंगे तो सरिया बनाते, वो भी कहेंगे साहब हमें भी आप इसका लाभ दीजिए. Now you have to interpret it because there was no clear rule. I interpreted that the value addition that is done on mud to create a brick is much more than in percentage as compared to value addition by a Sabya member. And hence benefit should go to it. So I interpreted it to my values. But if there was a clear law stating कि सिर्फ इनको benefit दिया जा सकता है, no matter what value system I had, I won't do it. So you have to be clear in your mind, otherwise you get conflicted. So if you have value system, so another example, I run a scheme for poor people, okay? और उसमें लिखा है कि शेड्यूल कास्ट शेड्यूल ट्राइब वो इनको ही मिलेगा. एक गरीब आदमी मेरे पास आया who is not a शेड्यूल कास्ट शेड्यूल ट्राइब, लेकिन मेरे विचार से उसको भी बेनिफिट मिलना चाहिए. क्या करेंगे आप करके मरेंगे. मेरा कहना यह है कि आप उन चीजों पर फोकस कीजिए जो आप कर सकते हैं. नाउ दिस इज अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट दैट आई मीन. If you focus on what you can, that can will grow. But if you waste your time on what you can't, you will not have time to do what you can. There is a couplet by a very famous American monk by the name of Reinhold Niebuhr. Lord, grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change things that I can, and the wisdom to understand the difference between them. That's very important to maintain sanity here. वो खाली जोश से काम नहीं चलेगा. इसका bottom line ये है, and which I experience myself, that if you focus on what you can, that can will grow. So when there is a crisis in investment, Dr. Manmohan Singh will call you at the cabinet secretary. When there is a crisis in coal, they will call Mr. Anil Swarup. I have not violated any law. But merely being honest does not help. You have to be efficient also. You have to be able to deliver. If you can develop that attributes, that frustration will not be there. So don't try and do things which are against you. And accept it as it. You may disagree with it. I disagree with some constitutional provisions. As a government servant, I will have to go by it, whether I like it or not. That's a compromise. As I said, there are no perfect situations. Everything can't be to your liking. But if you look at it this way, there is a huge scope where it is to your liking. वो तो करीब भाई यार, फिर आप नियम बदलवा लेंगे. मैंने तो कितनी बार नियम बदलवा लिया. Because people started believing in me. कि ये जो कहता है वो कर देता है. उसके बाद अब ये कह रहा है तो सही कह रहा हो. आप पहले से ही अपना गाना लापने लगे, ये ठीक नहीं, ये ठीक नहीं. वो कह अभी किया इसने ढेलावर कुछ नहीं है, वो समझा रहा क्या करना चाहिए. इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. खुद ही को कर बुलंद. आप अपने को इस हद पे ले आए कि लोग आपकी बात सुने, अगर आप परिवर्तन कर ले जाएंगे. ठीक है. यस.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for giving such a wonderful time to us. So my question is,
What's your good name and from where are you?
Sir, IT College, pursuing MBA. So my question is that we all are, as we youngsters, we always set a goal for us. We all do. But sometimes we not meet to that goal, or people influence us that we can't do. As my first preference was never MBA. I was preparing for CPS, for army officer. I have done NCC also from Lucknow University. So, but unfortunately, from 3 times I got confidence out. Then people influenced me that now you don't want to waste your time, and now you think you will do good there, etc. But if I see myself, I'm happy. So the answer will be no. But if I can do something about it, so I thought, so how we can utilize what we think and what other people think about ourselves.
See, सबसे पहले First of all, stop listening to others. It's difficult. और ऊपर वाले ने 2 कान इसीलिए दिए, in and out. Only listen to your mentors or your well-wishers. Because there will be all sorts of, especially because of this social media, क्या क्या घूमता रहता है. And youngsters do get influenced. You have to ask yourself, and I would suggest to all youngsters, before you sleep, reflect on what you did during the course of the day. Because अपने आप से झूठ नहीं बोलता. We don't sufficiently reflect on what we do. Reflect on whatever you did. Number 1. Number 2, there are no perfect situations. कौन सा ऐसे व्यक्ति है जिसका जीवन बिल्कुल और जब हार्ट लाइन ऐसी हो जाती है तो क्या हो जाता है? मृत्यु. पर नीचे तो होना ही है, तो जीवन है. You will go up and down. It's nothing unusual. There will be few things good, few things bad, few to your liking, few things not to your liking. As I said, there are so many factors that are determining your future that there's no point in worrying about it. But my friend, enjoy where you are. I mean, the way you are speaking, very fluent. I'm sure you will do it good as a manager. नहीं हुआ तो नहीं हुआ, उसमें हो सकता है इसमें भी कोई अच्छा ही हुआ. जब पहले साल मेरा IAS में नहीं हुआ, मैं बहुत परेशान था. रैंक अच्छी नहीं थी. अगर मैं कुछ 10-12 नंबर आया तो मेरा IAS में हो जाता. 10-12 नंबर से ही छूटा. अगर वो आ जाता तो मुझे कोई ऐसा काडर मिलता, त्रिपुरा, मणिपुर, रैंक नीचे आती. अगले साल आई गॉट अ वेरी गुड रैंक एंड आई गॉट माय होम कार्डर यूपी. तो कुछ ना कुछ अच्छाई होती है कहीं नहीं, वो आपको पता नहीं. तो उसकी आप बिल्कुल परेशान नहीं कीजिए. यू नो, द ऑलमाइटी, यू नो, आई एम एन एग्नोस्टिक. आई डोंट फॉलो God as is usually understood, but I believe in some superpower there. उसने अच्छा ही बना के रखा है सबके लिए. क्यों करेगा किसी के लिए खराब? तो वो सोच के चलिए, जो होगा अच्छा ही होगा. आप अपना लगे रहिए and enjoy it. Which I can make out. You're enjoying the moments. Doesn't matter. वो नहीं हुआ तो नहीं हुआ. हो सकता है उसमें कोई अच्छा ही हो, आपको नहीं. I don't know, but you enjoy the moments that you are in, and I'm sure you succeed in that. No question? Yes.
Like very common in this generation, and that's the makes maybe that's the reason that we underperform our exams, so things. So how do we control with this sort of personality that we go?
First of all, let me admit and tell you that what you are seeing right now is a finished product. I was not as confident as you are as you stand up and ask a question. I couldn't ask this question to a Mr. Anil Swarup, but you have that confidence. I didn't have it. So pat yourself on the back. You have that confidence. And life is a journey. You keep learning. So long as you're determined to learn. Number 1. Number 2, I'm digressing a bit. You must be thinking I'm always very confident, upbeat. No. There have been occasions, and many occasions in my life, and narrated them in my book. I've mentioned one to you, mistake. But even in service, there were occasions when I absolutely down and out. I was posted here in Lucknow as Secretary of Horticulture way back in 2003. And my minister was so corrupt, he was called Mr. 25%. 25% advance. I remember he never came to the office, so I went to his residence to call on him. So I was having a cup of tea. A young chap came out of a room and he said, Anil ji, ये मेरे छोटा भाई है, ये 3 दिन पहले इसकी बेल हुई है मर्डर के केस में, मैं सोच रहा हूँ इसे चुनाव लड़वा दूं. बड़ा कैजुअली ये माहौल था. And then he sends me a written order asking me to suspend a deputy director. No reason given. But it was not an illegal order because he was authorized to suspend. So I rang him up, I asked him, sir, आपने इसको suspend करने को कहा है, क्या किया इसने? बोले मुझसे मिलने नहीं आया. मुझे बड़ा अजीब लगा. मैंने कहा सर मैं कहता हूँ मिल लेगा, बात करता हूँ. मैंने उस अफसर के बारे में मालूम किया. सर ने कहा बड़ा अच्छा अफसर है, वेरी ऑनेस्ट. मैंने उसको बुलाया, मैंने कहा तुम मिलने क्यों नहीं गए मंत्री जी से? बड़े नाराज है, तुम्हें सस्पेंड करने को कह रहे हैं. बोले सर मैं उनसे कई बार मिल चुका हूँ, लेकिन जैसे वो मिलना चाह रहे हैं मैं नहीं मिल पा रहा. मैंने अपनी किताब में लिखा है 3 forms of corruption. नजराना, शुक्राना, जबराना. दिस मंत्री वांटेड सम नजराना. मिलने जाए, कुछ ऑफर करे, बोले साहब मेरे पास तो है नहीं मिल देने में. Now I was in a dilemma and I was very upset. Here is a legitimate order For a good officer, how do I save him? I was so depressed because I believed in protecting my team. So the poet in me came out. It happened in Lucknow. I wrote these lines here. संशय नहीं मन में तेरी सृष्टि में या तुझ में, तू ही तू मेरे मन में समाया, सब कुछ मैंने तुझसे है पाया, फिर भी स्तब्ध हूं, व्याकुल हूं, अशांत हूं, शायद अनजान हूं। क्या यही जीवन है? जो पापी है, दुराचारी है, क्यों जीत रहा निरंतर है? स्पष्ट करो, अभिव्यक्त करो, कुछ तो करो मेरे राम। तो मैंने अपनी वेदना पूरी राम की झोली में डाल दी। But since I was an optimist, I still am an optimist. The answer came in these lines which I've used in my book. समय रुका नहीं, हम क्यों ठहर गए? समय रुका नहीं, हम क्यों ठहर गए? अभी तो हम चले भी नहीं, फिर क्यों थक गए? उठो पथिक मत भ्रमित हो, धूमिल अंधियारे में श्रेष्ठ वही जो घिरा नहीं हो क्षणिक निराशा में। जागो जगाओ, मन मत बहलाओ, एक मसीहा तुम भी बन जाओ। Inspired by these lines, I found out the roots, and that's the point that I'm trying to make here. An honest officer should know the roots very well. So I found a rule in which I got to know that if I disagreed with the minister, I could prove the file through the chief secretary. So I spoke to the chief secretary, explained to him. He said, "Anil, file मुझे भेज दो, फिर देखते हैं." I wrote a long note and sent it to the chief secretary. He sat on the file. Now there was an order which was not issued. तो मिनिस्टर आज भी क्या हुआ? मैंने कहा साहब चीफ सेक्रेटरी पास फाइल गई हुई, कुछ नहीं, बुला के चीफ मिनिस्टर से मिल लिया। उनके बीच में क्या मंत्रणा हुई मुझे पता नहीं, मेरा ट्रांसफर हो। जब मेरा ट्रांसफर हुआ तो चीफ सेक्रेटरी बड़े अपसेट हो गए। उन्होंने मुझसे बुलाकर कहा, यार तुम उसको बचाने के चक्कर में तुम्हारा ट्रांसफर हो गया। अब देखिए मेरा नजरिया बदल चुका था ट्रांसफर का। मैंने कहा सर क्यों परेशान होते हैं? फॉर ए सिविल सर्वेंट ट्रांसफर इज लाइक डेथ, इट इज इनएविटेबल। जो होना उसके लिए परेशान क्या होना? बट सर मैं तो हिंदू फिलोसफी में विश्वास करता हूँ, मेरा पुनर्जन्म होगा, आप मुझे कोई पोस्ट करेंगे, मैं फिर वही पाप करूंगा। तो हंसने लगे। So the point is, how do you take this? So when you are entering an examination, there are 2-3 things that you should reflect on. Number one, you are not alone in the boat. Everyone is given the same exam. आप परेशान है तो वही परेशान है। दूसरा, ये स्वाभाविक है। It's natural to become. When it is natural, you do not become worried of becoming worried. Worried होंगे, लेकिन परेशानी के लिए परेशान नहीं होंगे। तो परेशान नेचुरल है, सब लोग हैं, मैं भी हूँ। और तीसरा जो मैंने शुरू में बताया था, रिजल्ट आपके हाथ में नहीं। किस बात के लिए परेशान है? अगर आपने काम किया है तो ठीक ही होगा, और नहीं होगा जैसा उनका हुआ है, नहीं हुआ तो उसमें भी कोई आपका अच्छा निहित है, कुछ अच्छा है। इस तरीके से आपको सी यू हैव टू चेंज योर माइंड, एंड इट डजंट हैपन ओवरनाइट। इट वोंट हैपन कि आज अनिल स्वरूप साहब ने भाषण दिया है और कल जो है सब फिट हो जाएगा मामला, ऐसे नहीं होगा। इट इज स्टेप बाय स्टेप। यू कैन वॉच माय वीडियोस, आई हैव स्पोकन एट लेंथ ऑन दीज इश्यूज, ऑन हाउ टू ओवरकम these problems that individuals have. They are there. Okay, so if there are no questions, I'll just narrate one more incident just for youngsters sitting here. I was doing a scheme called Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, health insurance scheme, which came to be recognized world over as one of the finest schemes in the world, attending to crores of people. They were benefiting. So when Mr. Obama became president of the US, one of his advisors rang me up. He said, "Mr. Swarup, can you come to the US and make a presentation on your wonderful scheme?" So I tried to wriggle out. I said, our scheme is totally different in context. People are different. But he insisted. So in one of the visits to Washington, where I used to go to interact with World Bank people, I went to Brookings Institute that houses these advisors and made a presentation on Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. During that presentation, there were representatives of the federal government, the state government, our own mission people were there. There were also representatives of Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation. You heard of these foundations? So they were there. So after the presentation, I was having a cup of coffee. The gentleman from Gates Foundation walks up to me and asks me, "Mr. Swarup, you seem to be very passionate about the scheme. What is the government giving you beyond your salary?" Very interesting. Many of you do things you feel passionate, others are not passionate. So I asked him a counter question. I asked him, Gates Foundation gives millions of dollars to poor countries. What do you get out of it? He said, "Well, that's a job, but more than that, we derive a lot of satisfaction in helping poorest of the poor." I said, "You answered your own question. This scheme, Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, is meant for the poorest of the poor, many of whom would have been dead but for the scheme. So the good wishes of those that survived and their families come back to me somehow, anyhow. That's good enough a kick for me to do what I'm doing." And then I narrated an incident to him. In this scheme, I used to go to these small hospitals that were empaneled. One day I was visiting one of the hospitals, and I was talking to a beneficiary patient. I heard a very feeble voice from behind. I turned around and saw a very old lady calling me Beta Idhar Aao. Someone had told her that I had something to do with the scheme. Beta Idhar Aao. So I went to her. I bent down because she couldn't sit. She was so old and frail. She was barely able to lift her hand and flashing that smart card. So I asked her, माता जी आप ठीक तो हैं? She told me, बेटा मैं बहुत तकलीफ में हूँ, लेकिन इन अस्पताल वालों ने मेरा बड़ा ख्याल रखा। मैंने ऐसा फिर तो आप ठीक हो जाएंगी, अपने घर जाएंगी। नहीं बेटा मेरी तो उम्र इतनी हो गई, अब मैं ऊपर वाले के पास जाऊंगी। मैंने कहा नहीं माता जी आप घर जाएंगी। नहीं बेटा मेरा कोई घर में है ही नहीं, मेरा भाई है बेटा, कोई नहीं दुनिया में है ही नहीं मेरा, और उम्र मेरी इतनी हो गई मैं बचूंगी नहीं, मैं ऊपर वाले के पास जाऊंगी। एंड देन शी मेड अ रिमार्केबल स्टेटमेंट। शी टेल्स मी, ऊपर वाले जाके एक बात जरूर कहूंगी, ये बात जरूर कहूंगी, तुम्हारी स्कीम बहुत अच्छी है। You know, I call them my Bharat Ratnas in my book. Friends, you can find your own Bharat Ratnas. You can find your own king. But you have to find it. No one else will do it for you. And with that passion, do it. So thank you very much. God bless all of you. Take care.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing such a compelling perspective towards life.
I have built this book. I was given to the best intellectual. The problem is that each of the intellectuals is so good that I don't know. So I am giving this to someone as a representative of all of you, not one, because every intellectual was absolutely everything. So can I call the lady sitting there? Sorry, where is the reference? Yeah, there. Can you come out? Got this data and we do that.
Thank you. I now request Director Sir to please felicitate our orator. Thank you. I now request Director Sir to please share his esteemed presidential remarks.
Thank you, Tanya. Before I say anything, may I request all of you to give a standing ovation to Swarup sir. Thank you. Namaskar. I have no remarks to make, but sir, thank you very much. It was indeed, like I said, in 2022 December, I heard you in our orientation. But then I thought it should be useful for everybody. So I must thank Krishna that he got in touch with you, and then we got this moment possible. I was just looking at what you spoke, because I keenly read all your 3 books, not the 4th one, what you said in the morning today. But it's indeed a pleasure to have gone through the kind of emotions you have gone through as a civil servant. And then, like you said, it's not gyan, it's not theoretical thing you're speaking, but it was too practical. I was just when I was listening to you, I was just looking at what is a key sticky point I can have it in my learning desk. I keep telling my own colleagues that there is a key to success. It's nothing but key. But then I can add a cake to it. So I was looking at, cake is the key for success, not the one all of you think can make you unhealthy or fat. So we always championed that Eat Right campaign when we were in FSSCI. So that cake, I was just looking at your own words. You said, it's about comprehension. Then I added, when you comprehend, you should be able to collaborate. So that the C in the cake is for that. And once you collaborate or comprehend, then you need to be having the senses of the professional experience enough to analyze or assess the situation, which means with that you're going to get knowledge, which you should be able to share with your team or with your fellow organization. You don't have to compete with them, but you can complement with them. So the K in the cake is the knowledge sharing. And the E is the best part, where you engage, you enable, and you empower, which means you step back. Somebody else will take it forward, which means you have shared your knowledge, which is the K in the key, and the experience. And the Y part is very important, that is you. So when it comes to success, it's knowledge, experience, and you. I mean, if you take out the Y in the key, there's no key to success. So that I feel was the sticky point for me, and I know I'm very thrilled to have learned, at least begun my day with such a good learning. And I'm sure my younger colleagues, friends, and the students from IT college certainly would have felt satisfied to have spent this time out here listening to you, sir. And there are, because we were webcasting it live on Facebook and YouTube, I'm sure even people who are listening on the web would be benefited with your wealth of experience. Not really wealth of experience, it's about what practically you can do. I truly believe you can't change something you can't change. You can only change which you can. And the best part in what you can change is you. If you can change yourself, I think the world will change by itself. So I always believe a happy mind, a mind that is willing to change itself, is always something that will create happiness for others as well as for self. That's why I was trying to show you that tagline we have in the institute. Until all of us are successful, none of us are. So which means we have that feeling of staying together, being happy together. I can be happy anytime, but it doesn't mean that I wish my neighbor should be unhappy. So the moment I realize that, I should be happy and my neighbor should be happy, would make things much easier for everybody to do it. And indeed, for those, I have been impressed by him, especially when I was going through the aftermath of the coal scam. And then I had an opportunity to work with few IAS officers who were junior to him, who were senior to him. I've heard from them. And finally, I got to see him in 2022 December. Now here he is, and I'm really thankful to you, sir. I'm sure you'll make some more time and then come visit us to see what we are doing as an institution. That will be great for us. Thank you very much. And once again, it is this series that we started, with an intent. And the very USP of this series was to have somebody who is not within the organization, from different walks of life, so that we all get an experience or taste of how it works when it comes to executing things. So one of my colleagues who was asking a question about administration and the specialization, the generalization. I truly believe certain, even I'm sure government also recognizes where there is specialist job, it has to be done by specialists. But at the end of the day, it needed a physicist to decode the DNA who was never from biology. So things work out better when somebody is not aware of it. So my PhD guy, he said, when you are trying to do your doctoral work or your higher degree, what gets you going or what makes you successful is stupidity. If you're stupid enough in science, you will grow better. Because if you already are aware of what you're trying to work on, that means you have a solution in your plate. You don't need to work on the problem. So the moment you're not aware of the issue and then you're trying to find a solution for the issue by digging through knowledge, that makes you better and successful in getting the degree or make the degree worthwhile the time you are spending. Because you have to assume that I don't know about this problem, so I have to read, analyze, find a solution, and then try to address whether it works or not. So, stupidity in science is something that is very important. I'm sure with all your experience, you also finally indicated that you need to accept that I don't know, so that I need to dig through it. And your stint in coal ministry, I'm sure that was the whole concept that you went with when the entire storm was brewing or has brewed already. It had blown out of proportion. So thank you very much, sir. And indeed, it was a pleasure meeting you. And it is our fortune that you are in our campus. And thank you very much once again. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you, sir. I now invite Dr. K.M. Ansari, convener Idea Series, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Tanya. On the behalf of IITR, it is my privilege to propose vote of thanks for this idea lecture. First of all, I thanks Anil Swarup sir for such wonderful, motivational, inspirational lecture. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. और आप हमारे बीच आए और इस तरीके से आपने बात बताई जो हमारे लिए रोजमर्रा की चीजें हैं और रोज हम एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं और हमारे आसपास से गुजरती हैं, लेकिन जो बातें जिस तरह से बताई वो हमें 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 उम्मीद है कि हम सभी थोड़ा थोड़ा अपने को इम्प्रूव करेंगे जैसे जैसे बड़े होंगे और एक्सपीरियंस करेंगे। सर, आपकी अगर परमिशन हो तो मैं एक लाइन शेयर करना चाहता हूँ जो आपने हमें रास्ते में जब हम लोग आ रहे थे कल तो आपने बताई थी। जैसे बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस आए आपको सर के लिए कि आप जब यहाँ पे खड़े हैं तो कैसे काम है, कॉन्फिडेंस है। तो कल सर की एक नई बुक आ रही है जिसपे चर्चा होनी है, तो बहुत सारे डेलीगेट्स आएंगे। तो मैंने ऐसे ही बात छिड़ी तो मैंने पूछा सर मतलब सोचना तो ठीक है, बोलना तो ठीक है, बट लिखना बहुत मुश्किल काम होता है। तो सर ने कहा सही कह रहे हो आप, मुझे पहली किताब लिखने में 8 साल लगे। तो जो अभी बोल रहे हैं, जो आपसे बातें बता रहे हैं, ये ऐसे नहीं आती और पहली बुक लिखने में 8 साल लगे। तो कहने का मतलब ये है कि हर परिंदे को उड़ने में वक्त लगता है, चाहे जिस घोंसले से निकले। तो ये मकसद था बताने का। और सर ये 12वां लेक्चर है आइडिया सीरीज का। इतनी तादाद कभी इस ऑडिटोरियम में नहीं रही और आप करीब 1 घंटे बोले हैं और देखिए खड़े हैं सब लोग। तो ये बताता है कि जो बात है वो कितनी रियलिस्टिक है और दिल को छूने वाली है और कितनी प्रैक्टिकल है। सो थैंक यू वेरी मच सर। I also want to thank our director for organizing such idea lecture and giving all freedom to do what we want to do. IT कॉलेज का भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और आप सभी लोगों का भी बहुत धन्यवाद जो आप आए और मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि आपको जरूर कुछ न कुछ फायदा हुआ होगा। आल्दो आप MBA कर रहे हैं लेकिन फिर भी बहुत फायदा है। इसी तरीके से आई वांट टू थैंक्स एंड एक्नॉलेज द IT एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, ट्रांसपोर्ट, सेल्स, कैंटीन और जो भी लोग इस प्रोग्राम को ऑर्गेनाइज करने में लगे हैं, कान्या, उनकी टीम, आशीष, फोटोग्राफर, सभी लोग जो लोग डायरेक्टली इनडायरेक्टली इन्वॉल्व हैं, सभी का बहुत बहुत
Thank you, sir. Now I request everyone to please rise for national anthem. Thank you for joining. Now we'll take a group photograph.